Hi, kids. No theme music, no script. We're winging it. This is the 2021 Indiana High School Baseball Semi-State Preview. I'm not affiliated with IHSAA, but I am a fan. We are going to go over all of 4 locations for the semi-state for the baseball this year and all the matchups, and stick around to the end because we're going to crown the 1A through 4A hat champions for 2021. Why? Because it matters. Let's talk location. First of all, we all start right here. This is the end game. That star in the middle, Victory Field. That's the background you see there also. That's the goal for all the games this Saturday. Let's talk about our first location, LaPorte Schreiber Field, named after Ken Schreiber. If you can see it kind of close in the background there, you see those 8 state championships. Named after Ken Schreiber. He was the coach during the legacy of the LaPorte Slicers. But they're not playing this weekend. We are going to talk about who's playing there this weekend, though, and man, there are some good matchups. That's LaPorte, way up north. Our next location, of course, is Kokomo at beautiful Municipal Stadium. Beautiful Municipal Stadium. If you look at it, you think, wow, that kind of looks like Loeb Stadium in Lafayette. Sure does. They are both amazing stadiums. I'll tell you what, if you're you can go there, get a bucket seat. It's going to be a beautiful day Saturday to be at Municipal Stadium in Kokomo. Keep going south here. You got Mooresville. Mooresville has some awesome turf. I guess the tech on this stuff is amazing. From what I heard, you could have a pretty heavy downpour, and you're taking fielding in about 10 minutes after it stops raining. So beautiful turf there in Mooresville for the 4 teams that are going there. Let's keep going south. Our final location is Jasper Ruxer Field, and I'll tell you what, this is just a beautiful field. This is one of the hearts of baseball in Indiana, and there are some amazing matchups down there. Let's talk about who's playing where. But before we do, I got a couple interesting things we might want to consider here as we look at our matchups. The Jasper and LaPorte, the far north and the far south one, natural grass. 2 ones in the middle, turf. Will it matter? Who knows? I talked to some coaches who are playing at Mooresville and Kokomo, though, this week, and they took extra practice on the turf because it is different. One other interesting thing, up north in LaPorte, I don't know if it's still there or not. I haven't been there in a year or so, but they used to have this banner on the building right as you walk in the field, Schreiber Field, baseball capital of Indiana. But just to make some controversy, back in 2015, Indy Star came out with this article, How Did Jasper Become the High School Baseball Capital of Indiana? I'll tell you what, somebody ought to do a documentary on that, because I bet Fort Wayne, Terre Haute, Richmond, Westfield, I bet there's a few other places that could argue their location as the baseball capital of Indiana. Sounds interesting. All right, let's look at the matchups. First, up in LaPorte. If you're going to LaPorte, here's who you're going to see play. The 1A game is the first game at 12 p.m. Eastern and 11 a.m. Central. Washington Township versus Cowan. Man, I'm already getting excited. These matchups are just crazy. Then you got the 3A game, 4 p.m. Hanover Central versus Norwell. Jeez. Here's where they're located. Washington Township. Yep, it's up there in the region also, pretty close. They play teams in that area. Cowan, not too far away. They'll travel. They're excited to be here. They don't care if the game's in New York. Same way with that 3A game. You got Hanover Central versus Norwell. Gosh, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get through this thing. I am salivating. These matchups are just crazy. Hanover Central up there. That's kind of the same location as the 1A game. You've got the team up in the area by the field, and then you got a team in the kind of the shallow northeast right there. But these matchups, seriously, this is like Hulk versus Juggernaut. That's what I see when I go up there. If I didn't see anything else, I would be up in LaPorte and I would be perfectly happy. Then I look at the others and I get confused. Let's go down to Kokomo. Here's who's playing. Eastside versus Delphi. Where are they? Eastside's way up north, Northeast Corner Conference. Delphi is just, hop, skip, and a jump. Eastside, they don't care either. First semi-state, they'd drive to Hawaii if that were possible. I'm a hat guy. Never claimed to be smart. That's the 2A game at 1 p.m. The 4A, Munster versus Fishers. And Fishers, right up State Road 31 right there. They can get there in no time at all. Munster, they're up in the region. A little bit of a drive. I don't think it's a worry. These are 4A schools. They travel all the time, play a competitive schedule. Game could be anywhere. They're going to go there. But I'll tell you what, these matchups. Seriously, are you kidding me? Moving on. I'm trying to be funny here. It ain't working. Where are we at? Mooresville. The new Tech Turf. Who's playing? Shakamak and Borden. Oh my gosh. Every time I think I want to go to another location, I see these matchups and I'm like, okay, now I want to go to this location. Shakamak and Borden, where are you? Shakamak, you are in the shallow southwest there, and Borden, you're in the far southeast. And Shakamak, not too far of a drive. Borden, they're a team. They got a competitive schedule. They'll travel anywhere. 2A game, University versus Providence. Providence and Borden, here's an interesting thing to consider when looking at these locations. Providence and Borden are basically neighbors. I was talking to one of the coaches, and they said that the fan base for these two, they're probably going to travel together. So that Mooresville, Shakamak and University, of course, those two programs, they travel well also. But you're going to have a crowd of 2 versus a crowd of 1 there, very possibly. So that could lead to some exciting action at Mooresville for those games. Let's keep going south. Simply, talk about those matchups. One does not simply win in Mooresville. More truer than true. Let's go to Jasper. See who's playing down there. Brebeuf versus Southridge. Seriously, man. Mount Vernon, Fortville versus Jasper. Jasper's, it's their backyard. Southridge, Jasper, it's their living room. Southridge, it's their backyard. Brebeuf, though, they travel all over the place. They don't care. They've been down to Tennessee and Kentucky. Mount Vernon, those guys are studs. They play everybody all over the state. So I don't think anybody cares the locations on this. But that's where they are. Brebeuf, just right there in Indy. Southridge, just down the road from Jasper. Mount Vernon, Jasper, of course. I would think you would know where that is. Mount Vernon will travel. I don't think location is going to be an issue as far as travel. The fan base, I think the fan base is going to travel. I don't care where the game is. You could have a Jasper team playing in LaPorte, and I think the Jasper fans would follow them. This is a semi-state. We haven't had baseball in a year, kids. Seriously, we have not had baseball in a year. The semi-states are going to be crazy this year. All right, let's look at the matchups. Let's start with 1A. Here we go. Now the fun starts. We talked to a lot of people. We've got Washington Township versus Cowan. It is up in LaPorte. Washington Township, the number 2 team when the season ended, 28-7. They're in the Porter Conference, or the Porter County Conference, sorry. Coach Randy Roberts, I'll tell you, as we go in, let's just, go into this Washington Township. There's their roster. We're going to look at their schedule here too. I wasn't able to talk to Coach Roberts, but I talked to Jim Peters up in Northern Indiana, and I talked to Brian Jennings and other people like that, and a resounding thought on Washington Township is Coach Roberts. He's so fundamentally, they say, one of the best coaches in the state. And that's not Hardy the Hat guy saying that. That's coming from the media up there. That's coming from other coaches in that northwest part of Indiana. He plays a lot of small ball. He steals. He'll bunt and bunt and bunt. And he will make you make the mistakes. And if you go back to 2019 to that state championship when they played Southridge, that's what happened in the state. That's what crowned them. Or that was Alexander Monroe. Also, Washington Township lost to University. It was a semi-state game leading up to that. I was thinking I'm getting my games mixed up. But that's what they'll do. They'll make you make the mistake because they're so fundamentally sound. They're fast. They play small ball. Entertaining to watch. It's not... You're not going to go and see 3 or 4 home runs. They play old school fundamental baseball. Here's their schedule and wins and losses this year. They play a tough schedule. They play a lot of, this is a 1A team that's playing a lot of 4A schools up there. You see right out of the bat, they beat Merrillville 6-2. That's a 4A school. But look at that third game on the left. Andrean, they lost by 1 run. Now, I haven't talked to Andrean or anything like that to see if there was any changes in lineup or anything going on like that. But people who are in the 4A semi-state got blanked by Andrean by 10 runs or more. Two of them did. So a 2-1 loss to Andrean by a 1A school tells you what you're dealing with Washington Township. They are fundamentally, or their defense is stellar. And, you could talk to any coach that's in the semi-state today, and every one of them, matter of fact, all of them did say that defense and fundamentals, it's not like football where you got to come up with trick plays. It's fundamentals: catch, throw, hit, run. And nobody coaches it better, and nobody plays it better than Washington Township. So that's them. Now let's look at Cowan. Here's Cowan's lineup. And I had a chance to talk to Coach Wells of Cowan, and let's hear him talk about this matchup and how Cowan got to where they are.
I'm excited for this opportunity. Our boys are excited for this opportunity. I know that we have a very good opponent, a very great opponent on Saturday that we're anxious to play, and hopefully we'll be playing the next Saturday as well. But we know we have a very tough obstacle in the way and a very well-coached team to play on Saturday, and we're excited to have this opportunity. The biggest identity that I like that we like to do is just put pressure on the defenses. We're not a team that drives the ball to the gap very often. We're not a team that has tons of team home runs. I think we have 3 totally. That we like to just put pressure on the defense by small ball and steals and putting the ball in motion, hit and runs that really put pressure on the defense to make plays. That's the way that we manufacture some runs, is by just trying to put pressure on the defense. And that's our biggest identity, is just trying to put as much pressure as possible on the defense. We had a lot of one-run losses that really struck our team to the core a little bit, and I kept on challenging them. What's it going to take? We're one big hit away, we're one big pitch away from being some really quality teams. And actually, there's one loss that really triggered our kids, I believe, is when we played Monroe Central, and everybody knows around the state that they're one of the most talented teams in the state. That they played Wapahani in the sectional final. We were ahead 3-0 in the sixth, I believe, and they made some really good baseball plays. It wasn't on our end that we blew the game; it was just on them, and they made some really good baseball plays to beat us 4-3. And they're one of the more talented teams that we faced all year, and we were right there with them. And that really proved to our guys that we can stick with a lot of good quality teams. I mean, we had 1-run loss to Westdale early, a 1-run loss to Delville very early. That we were right there the whole time, but we just needed a break to go our way. And right there, we played such a good game. Even though we lost, it proved to our kids that we can compete with some very good teams. They have 3, looks like really good arms, senior arms that we don't really know who to expect from there. It looks like they got 2 twin Hernandez brothers that have been lights out all year. So we just got to expect something from the left side. And obviously, it looks like they have no team home runs. They're very similar to us about how they produce runs. So I've been preaching to my boys, we just got to be prepared for small ball, and telling our catcher that they're gonna steal at any time. And it looks like they're obviously very high ranked in 1A, and they just do extremely well at small ball type baseball. It looks like they're kind of the same team as us offensively, as far as I can look at stats wise, but we just never know. We try to worry more about ourselves and how we can prepare on our offensive end, on our defensive end, but without looking at some other stuff. What's worry about our own selves, how we're preparing compared to just diving into how much they do. So we're just trying to prepare on our end the best way and get our kids prepared, and hopefully it turns out for the best this weekend. I hope that as many people from all communities come to this game. It's a little bit of a drive for us, but I hope everybody from this community and all the other 3 teams come in this game and sell out the stands, and hopefully they have just a type of environment that we've had for the past 2 rounds. I hope that we can push as far as the softball team did and have just a successful run. And our community has a way of rallying behind their teams like no other I've been a part of. I mean, they traveled really well for our regional win. They traveled really well for our sectional win. And I know that the softball team has been cheering us on the whole time. So I hope to see them in the stands as well. The community at Cowan is small, but it is one of the strongest that you'll ever see. So I hope to see as many people as possible when it comes to Saturday.
I'll tell you one thing I love about this Washington Township. Well, first of all, I'm going to pause. Look at those big. Do you see some of those pictures? Those are some big boys. This looks like a football team for Cowan. But I love this matchup because you have the Washington Township, a veteran coach who's been doing it for a long time. Then you got young Coach Wells here, who's smart. He's energetic. He's eager to learn. I mean, Cowan, you guys have a great coach there. You got a good future there with Coach Wells. And Washington Township, of course, Coach Roberts there is just, he's known all over the state as just one of those great coaches. So I love the coaching matchup here. The veteran, I don't want to say old because he's probably my age, but the veteran and the young coach and Coach Wells. And I tell you what, everybody knows throw the paper away during playoffs. Yes. Washington Township is ranked number 2 in the state in 1A, and they're 28-7. Cowan is 15-13, but they've made some big wins when it matters. And this young coach, he's going to have them excited and bring a level of energy to that game that's just going to be so exciting. So that's our first matchup. We're only 1/8 of the way through. Let's go to our other 1A matchup. And we are going down to Mooresville. And man, oh man, I love this matchup. And I know I've said that 100 times, but the style of play between these two right here, just pure hitters. It's like Shakamak, you got a team of Rod Carews, and Borden has a team of Ichiros. They can hit for power too, but they're both, and the coaches will tell you the same thing. And this is kind of even though Coach Yeryar with Shakamak, this is only his first year there, though he's a product of Shakamak. So I mean, he's bringing that legacy of good hitting that came from Shakamak from years and years through Chip Sweet and everybody else. So I mean, and Borden is just, they're number 5 in the state right now. Shakamak is number 10. They both play a crazy tough schedule for a 1A team. Now, Shakamak, I'll tell you ahead of time, Shakamak to me plays the toughest 1A schedule in the state. They're 5 or 6 games into it, and we're going to see their schedule here in a minute. They're all 4A teams, and it just continues that way all throughout the year. The teams that aren't 4A included people like West Vigo, who was ranked in the top 5 almost all year, and teams like that. So let's take a look at this matchup. First, let's go with Shakamak. There's their schedule, and I got to talk to Coach Yeryar of the Lakers. Let's give a listen.
We finished out pretty much, rough at the end as well. We played Terre Haute North for the second time to make up for a game that we had dropped on us. We played West Vigo right there at the last game of the season. We played Martinsville right there at the end. Terre Haute South was right up there in the end because of the rain out we had before. And I just really feel like that finishing out the way we did, which I think we finished out, we beat Martinsville. We beat them down here at our place. And matter of fact, we've got them on the schedule now too with everybody else. And we're trying to work out something with Bedford North Lawrence. But finishing out against teams like that, I knew that was going to lead us into a direction that we would not see stuff that good starting out into the tournament, especially like in our sectional. I knew that we was going to, we faced a really tough little pitcher there in Bloomfield in our sectional championship game with the Brett Sherrard kid. And I mean, the kid can throw it. He can throw the ball up there, mid 80s, probably 86, 87 from time to time. And he's got a real nasty slider to go with it. We was patient with him. We took advantage of the mistakes. And I think when we won that game there, it kind of gave the kids a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. But when we went in to play Southwestern, of course, we knew we was playing a kid there that hadn't been beat this year on the mound. And, of course, anytime you're the underdog, it sort of takes the pressure off of you. And we always feel like, hey, if we're the underdog going into things like this, and, that we really don't have nothing to lose but everything in the world to gain. And the kids have really just tightened up their defense. We had a lot of flaws at the beginning of the season with some errors and stuff, and we really tightened up things like that. But, I mean, everybody fought those things this year because of missing a whole year last year. But I really think the turnaround point was probably when went out and played against Terre Haute South, and we come back in the 7th inning, and we was down 3 runs, and we took the lead by 1, and we ended up getting beat by 1 off of a walk-off home run. But it showed the kids that, look, hey, we can compete, and if we play our game, we're going to be in the game and have a chance to win at the end. And that's just really progressed us on 3. Of course, playing Terre Haute North again right after that game, and then West Vigo and Martinsville all right there in the end. That really prepared us to go into the tournament and compete and to play at the level we're playing at. The last few weeks, I've been trying to keep it so familiar with what we did the week before. For one, my kids are very, very superstitious. And like I say, I know we'll be wearing the same uniforms from here on out. But, whatever I can do to keep it real similar for the kids, to keep them in their comfort zone. We can't be walking people. We got to work ahead in the pitching count, because I know they can hit the ball. I know they're going to be defensively sound. They're very well coached. They're not going to make the mistakes on the field that like a lot of teams have made against us in the past and stuff. We're going to have to hit the ball well. I mean, we're going to have to actually base hit like what we did last weekend up against like Oldenburg and Southwestern. We actually hit the ball really well, had a lot of really good strung together hits at the right time. We was getting, multiple hits in a row. We took advantage of walks. We worked good pitch counts. We dug deep into the pitcher's count and stuff like that and got into his pitch count personally. And we just believe that the more pitches we can see from somebody, that later on in the game it's going to pay off, to where, for one, we're going to get some timing down. We're going to get this. Now, I know from what people have told me, the boy that will more than likely be getting the start for him, he can really throw the ball pretty decent with some good velocity, and he can also hit the spots pretty well with his breaking stuff. So, I mean, we've been working on, hitting both ways like that. We've been mixing up a lot of pitches on our kids and stuff from some lefties and things like that. And just really making our kids try to deal with what's going to be the best, that we're going to have to face. If you're a baseball fan, that's a dream come true. You get to see 4 of the best of the Final Four. So, I mean, because, at this stage of the game, winner moves on to play for it all. The guy that comes up short, well, he goes home and starts thinking about what he's got to do to rebuild to get back there. And the 4 programs you're going to see in there this week, it's going to come down to a clutch hit there, a good defensive play here or there, doubling up, getting a good double play, get out of a jam, whatever. I mean, it's going to be 2 chess matches. I mean, I don't look for either game to get out of hand like some games have in the past and stuff like that. I look for both these ball games to come down to 1 to maybe 2 runs at the most. And I'd say that me being a baseball guy, those are the games I want to be at, see, and watch, because you're on the edge of your seat the whole time, because you're 1 hit away or 1 home run away, whatever it may be, from that maybe being the deciding factor of winning the game.
That's your Shakamak Lakers coach Yeryar, and he is one of 2 coaches. Here's a little interesting fact for you: one of 2 coaches who are in the semi-state this week, who this is their first actual year as a varsity head coach. Now, both of them have been assistants for a while, but first year as head coach of their respective schools. Actually, both of them would have been a head coach last year, but 2020 hit. So that's the Shakamak Lakers, and I tell you what, he's got a couple kids on the team, Coach Yeryar does, and the future's looking good there at Shakamak. Continuing a legacy of good programs, and I tell you, they've got a tough matchup with Borden this week. Anybody who's played them knows what I'm talking about. Let's take a look at Borden. There's their lineup. They got a stellar hat. That matters to me. They also have a very cool throwback hat for the Borden Braves, or the Borden Berries, from back in a long time ago, that I got from Coach Stotts. And one of 2 throwback hats I got from one of them from Borden here and the other one from Shelbyville. But we're not talking hats. I know we're talking baseball, and Borden knows baseball. I got a chance to talk to the coach, so let's give it a listen.
I mean, at the beginning of the year, when we sat down as a team and talked about the goals for this season, I told him, I was honest with him. I said, look, I think there is the talent is dispersed here in such a way that I think we have a path to a potential state championship. But it's not up to me. I don't get to play. So, if you guys want to do that, then, here are the steps we're going to have to take. This is the way we're going to have to approach practices and games. And, they, to a man, they said they wanted that's what they wanted. Of course, you kind of expect that to be the case. And I don't think early on they believed it. We didn't get off to a super hot start, and generally speaking, that's a knock on me. It takes me a while to kind of figure out how to move the chess pieces. But I would say within the last 2 or 3 weeks of the regular season, maybe the last month of the regular season, we started to kind of see more of the potential that we had develop on the field. I would say the word would probably be solid. You're going to have to beat them. They are not going to beat themselves. And I think they, like you mentioned, they are routinely, they go deep into the tournament. And so they have probably an ease with this time of the year that maybe our kids don't have. The game is the game. It's the exact same game. And if you make it different, then you're inviting different results. And usually they're not as good. So we're just trying to keep everything on the same plane, the same path that we've done over the whole season, and not try to make it special or different or whatever. I've told the kids, it's easy to get swallowed up in it. We're a tiny community. We only have about 800, just a little over 800 residents in the community of Borden. So the school is the epicenter of the community. Now, ordinarily it's basketball season, but we won a state championship in softball. Basketball won one, I think, in 2013 maybe. Softball won a state championship. So it's I think they won it in 2016 or 17. But it's sports, the community, it's really rallies around that at our little school. So it's just, we've been trying to keep it business as usual. This time of the year, unless something really goes haywire, every game is going to be a nail biter. I don't think you get to a semi-state by accident. It's just too hard. It's just too hard to get here, unless you've got a lot going well. So I think it's going to be a really electric atmosphere, and I'm sure with Shakamak and like you mentioned, their postseason experience, their fans, I'm sure will be wound up tighter than a banjo string at the opportunity to get back into a state final. And I know universities had a long and very successful track record. I think you're going to see some really, really great baseball at the 1 and 2A levels on Saturday.
I couldn't agree more, Coach. That was Coach Stotts of Borden. And like I said earlier, Borden and Providence are both coming to Mooresville, and they're neighbors. So I think you're going to get those two communities pooling up against Shakamak and University there. But Shakamak and University, they're not scared. They've faced the competition. These are just going to be great matchups. But I love what Coach Stotts was talking about there with the community rallying behind these basically community-based 1A schools. That's what your 1A schools are. They're community-based or very rural-based. And the communities they really revolve around the amateur sports, the high school sports, and that's what I love about it. You think about the movie Hoosiers with the vans or with the buses following the team to all the games. That's what I want to see, Borden. That's what I want to see, Shakamak. That's what I want to see, Washington Township and Cowan. Rally those communities. It's Friday when I'm recording this. The games are tomorrow. Get there. 1A state finals. Don't call them the little guys. These guys know how to play baseball. fundamentally sound, solid baseball, fun to watch. Those are the two 1A games. Let's go to 2A. Here we go. Our first matchup in 2A takes us to Kokomo. And we have the Eastside Blazers versus the Delphi Oracles. Love the nickname, love the hats. Another good matchup here. I'll tell you what, Eastside first semi-state, but man, I'll tell you what, they have earned it. Coach Willard's got them going. He's already taken a girls softball team to the semi-state. Now he's taking a baseball team to the semi-state. Delphi is just chewing up ranked teams. Let's talk about that first when we talk about this matchup. Let's look at Delphi. There's their roster. There is that stellar lid. Let's just pause and look at that lid for a second. How awesome is that thing? When you talk about Delphi's season, you're talking about a 2A team that is playing their schedule. Well, let's just show you. Let's bring up their schedule. Here's their schedule. First look, just a bunch of W's and L's, not unlike anybody else in the semi-state. But let's break it down here a little bit. Madison Grant, they're a sectional winner, 21-8. They split with them. Of course, that was at the beginning of the season. Moving on down, it gets better. Carroll, stellar program, and their Delphi is playing up here against a 21-5 team. They lost both games, still early in the season, but they lost 6-5, and then they had just a barnstorming 16-10 game. But let's keep moving. You'll see what I'm talking about here. Then they play 4A Lafayette Jeff. They lost the game 9-5. It's 2A playing a 4A. Let's keep moving. You're going to see a pattern here. Rossville's 20-9. Delphi swept them. Remember that Lafayette Jeff game? See that L right there? There's another L on the other side, and that's all you're seeing. These are the stellar programs. 20-9 Rossville, they swept them. Go down to 18-9 Clinton Prairie. Beat them 5-1. Let's go across to Lebanon. Lebanon knows how to hit a baseball, right? If you follow baseball in Indiana, you know how good Lebanon is. 23-3 this year. They barely lost that game. 2A school playing up. Let's keep on going. You're going to see a pattern here. Seeger. Now we're into the tournament. Seeger's 21-5. High hopes out of the Wabash River Conference. Seeger has a team batting average of over 400. They have 5 guys batting 400 or higher. And I think one of them's like at 398. I'm sorry. The other one's batting 540 something. Team batting average over 400. They can flat rake. Delphi took it to them. Keep going down. Rochester. Rochester's 19-12. Good team. They avenged a loss in the opening game of the year. Then you go down. They took down the juggernaut, Wapahani. Wapahani was 29-1 coming in, 29-2 going out. So you see, just look at the records of the competition that Delphi is playing, and they're not afraid to play up, and it's been so consistent. They're not playing up. When you play Delphi, you're playing up. That's how it's going now. Delphi is ready to make a run. And I tell you, though, they've got Eastside in their way. We're looking at Eastside's roster here. And like I said, Coach Willard's got these guys ready. They play a good fashion of baseball. Let's just hear from Coach Willard. I got a chance to talk to him earlier this week.
Yeah, we've had some good wins along the way. But it seems like just the last maybe 10, 12, 15 games that, our bottom of the order just has started to hit. And I always thought those guys were capable. They just, for some reason, wasn't stringing them together. So we kind of flipped a couple guys. And ever since we made that move, it just seemed to be more comfortable for our entire lineup. And I think that's really helped us. No, I think it's about the same. We kind of do get into depth a little bit more. Obviously, once you get the season rolling, you don't usually we're going to have 4 practices here. So, I usually set goals for the week of what I want to accomplish. And that's what we're going to do. So I think we'll be ready by Saturday. So, there's a lot of little things that we need to do just a little bit better. and we'll focus on those for the entire week. We're gonna go practice on a turf field today, just to make sure that everybody's aware of just the nuances of it. I think obviously it's a little different than playing on grass. So I'd coached softball for 23 years, and we were fortunate to advance to the semi-state level a few times. So it's not my first rodeo as far as getting kids there. It's my first rodeo on the baseball side of it. So, we're excited. Our town and our community's excited. Our parents are really excited. So, it is a little new frontier for the baseball program. So, we're excited. We set 4 goals at the beginning of the year, and we've met all those goals. So, our team's, we're just going to go have fun and see how it plays out. They look very athletic to me. Very, fundamentally sound. They're really good on the mound. Obviously, they hit the heck out of it. So we're going to have to play sound. Obviously, at this point in the year, you're going to get usually their best pitching. So I think we've seen a lot of number ones throughout the year. Certain guys. So I think our schedules help prepare that. I'm sure they feel the same about their schedules. So I think it's a good matchup. They cause some problems with little things, but I think throughout the week, I think we focus on those things and hopefully contain them or do things a little better on our side.
One thing you notice about Eastside's schedule, if you caught it there when it popped up, is like a lot of the teams in the semi-state this weekend, they started off with a couple losses and then they found their groove. And that's why in the state final, in the semi-states right now, we only have one team that finished the year ranked number 1 left in the playoffs. You can throw the schedule, you can throw the records out the window when it comes tourney time. A couple other notes on this matchup, and Coach WIllard, you heard that train in the background when he was talking there. I don't know if that train is Eastside or Delphi, but one of these two is a dangerous contender for that 2A title for sure. What an exciting matchup up there in Kokomo. Let's go to our next 2A matchup. We go south to Mooresville, and we are going the other matchup in 2A. Wow. University and Providence. And I'll tell you what, I could talk about these two teams all day, with all due respect to all the other matchups. And man, there are some good ones. This one definitely has me the most intrigued because these two are juggernauts. They can pitch, they can run, they can hit, and they can flat rake. These teams are, as in the last few years, are molding themselves into the upper echelon of baseball at all levels, and definitely the measuring stick for 2A teams. And as you listen to these two talk, I got the chance to interview both coaches here. They have great respect for each other. They have, they're great baseball minds and they're good men. And you put all that together, that makes for, good leaders of young men, and that makes for good baseball. And I tell you what, I can't, say enough about these two teams, really the rest of the teams going forward. But this matchup is making me lean towards Mooresville. Let's put it that way. Let's take a listen, though. Let's go to University. There's their lineup. Let's listen to Coach Estep talk about his season with the Trailblazers and the challenge of facing Providence.
There's not one name that really sticks out that you go, oh, wow, he really makes this offense run. It's been somebody different in every game. It's been somebody different, throughout the tournament that has come up in key situations with key hits, with a key 2-out hit, runners in scoring position. It's not been one guy. You know, I mean, just like any other team, we've stunk in part of our order, and you know, this part of the order has been phenomenal. And you know, it's in my opinion, it's really been a grind for these guys to figure out their offensive identity. When are we going to reach our fullest potential offensively? And having all 9 guys really contributing, and you know, going up with the right approach and doing the right things and executing. So, you know, we're still searching for that. I would say that it's been a fairly steady progression. We definitely had a schedule that was somewhat trying, but it made the guys better. But the progression's been steady. I would say that the turning point in our year was the game against Andrean. We got smoked by them, and it was a situation where we kind of got punched in the nose, and we didn't answer. So that became kind of the I don't want to call it a battle cry, but you know what? If other teams score first, if they come out and they have a lot of energy, we're coming back to meet that challenge. And that was a day that we didn't do it. And the kids really started to understand that, hey, you know what? This is baseball. It's going to happen. And you have to be ready to answer the bell. And I think that was the best game of the year in a learning standpoint that has helped us get to this point. I think the fundamental piece of the game is always going to be the cornerstone. You've got to be able to throw. You got to be able to catch. You know, from a defensive standpoint, you know, me trying to put more pressure on them in this type of a game, you know, it's better that I keep my mouth shut because I'm really not that good of a coach. So it's one of those things that we've got some pretty decent players, and they need to go out and perform, you know, to their fullest God-given potential. I think they probably are one of, if not the best team in the state. They're extremely athletic. They scrappy. I mean, they play the game the way the game is supposed to be played, and they play with a lot of heart and desire. I mean, I just want to make sure our guys are ready, that they can go out and compete. I mean, they're really good, and I don't think they've been given their proper due throughout the year. I think, you know, I think they're the class of 2A baseball at this moment in time. And, you know, their coach, they do a great job. They've had a great history of players, and we have the utmost respect for them. And I kind of wish they weren't our opponent. They're really good. So, you know, I just hope we can go out and we can, you know, we can compete to the best of our ability, and, you know, hopefully we see what happens. And maybe we come out ahead. I don't know. They're really, really good. And I've stressed that all week to our guys, that you're going to have to take it. You know, you're going to get punched in the face, and it's going to be how do we respond and how do we react to that?
Well, you heard it straight from Coach. You can hear the respect he has for Providence, and I tell you, it's just kind of hearing Coach talk there, saying that I'm not that good of a coach, is just funny to me. That tells you the humility and the respect that he has for the game. because, the bio, the baseball resume, if you will, from his time in round trippers and everything else is, second to none. And the respect he has and deserving of Providence and Coach Hutchins, which has equal respect for Coach Estep. Here's Providence's lineup, and let's hear it straight from Coach Hutchins. I got to talk to him earlier this week about the Pioneers season and their challenges facing University.
I definitely think there was a turning point when we lost to Silver Creek. It was on a Friday night. It's a local team, a rival for us. And like I always say, there's no shame in losing to Silver Creek. They got a really great program, and they had a really good team this year. But it was the way we lost. We just didn't compete. They beat us, I think, 10-3. And quite frankly, it should have just been a much more competitive game than that. But we kicked the ball around a little bit. I didn't think we really wanted to fight, to be honest with you. And I did a lot of soul searching that weekend. So did coaches, and we came back and tried to really focus. On Monday, we weren't really worried about baseball for a while. We were just worried about being better teammates, being tougher, and that was really what our focus was. From that point on, we played pretty good baseball. So you can definitely consider our season kind of before and after Silver Creek in a lot of ways. We're going to try to keep our routine the same as it's been. Really just focus on us all week long, and that's what we've done, really all year long, but especially these last couple of weeks throughout the tournament is just working on our own execution and the things that we feel like we need to do to be successful, and really not tailoring it too much to our opponent. It looks like they're a really aggressive base running team. They like to steal a lot of bases. That's something that we pride ourselves on too, is aggressive base running. So we're definitely going to have to be very cognizant of the running game. We've got an outstanding catcher who throws really well, and we haven't really had an issue with that all season, but they're certainly going to present a challenge, maybe unlike one we have faced. So we'll have to change our timing up on the mound and give them some different looks. And then the thing that you mentioned, it's one of the first things, I'll be honest with you, that I look for anytime as we're getting prepared for a postseason game. I look at the other team's schedule. And sometimes when I see a schedule that might be a little softer, it kind of gives me a little, I guess, a sense of confidence knowing that the kind of teams that we play on our schedule. But when you look at University, they play a schedule it's every bit as tough as ours. So we know that we're going to be in for a heck of a fight, and like you said, it's two teams that are used to winning. There's a lot to be said for that in the postseason. People that have been through it and kind of expect it. So, I don't think either team will be overwhelmed by the moment. So it's a big challenge. There's no doubt about that. We talk about the same three things before every game, and that's we need our pitchers to throw quality strikes and make the routine plays defensively, and then look for every opportunity we can to take an extra base, to be aggressive on the base pass. That's who we are, and we feel like if we do those things, we'll give ourselves a chance to beat whoever we play. We know that they've got a really strong offense, and they got a couple of really hard-throwing left-handed pitchers. So it's there won't be anything easy about it. But that's to be expected. There's only 4 teams left. When you get to the point where there's only 4 teams left, you just you're going to have to beat a really good team to be able to advance.
Well, there are our 1A and 2A. Our other 2A regional takes us down to Mooresville. If the one in Kokomo wasn't good enough, we got another good one here. I'll tell you what. Take a look at this matchup right here. Hanover Central versus Norwell. 2 more juggernauts. Obviously, Hanover Central is the sole remaining #1 ranked team per IHSBCA's final poll that is still alive in the playoffs. Norwell, they've been here many times. And I tell you what, this is, I showed you those pictures early on in the first slide where it showed the newspaper article said Jasper is the baseball capital of Indiana. One said that LaPorte is the baseball capital of Indiana. Where you're looking, Hanover Central from the region, rich history of baseball in that area, and Hanover Central is one of them that's keeping it alive. Of course, you got Andrean up there and so many other good teams. Norwell is right there in the Fort Wayne area, and I tell you what, between them and well, there's just so many of them right there around Fort Wayne, not only historically but modern day too. So you're looking at two programs right here that know what's going on. They know how to get it done, and this is just another one of those matchups. This one's way up in LaPorte, and if I could be in three places at one time, this would be one of the three right here. But I talked to both of the coaches. Let's first hear from Hanover Central. Here is their lineup. I got a chance to talk to Coach Bridges today. Try to focus in on that schedule when it pops up on here while he's talking. And it's just, they're loaded. I mean, one of the things you can see when you see these schedules, there's a few teams here I want to mention. Andrean is one of them. You see Andrean on the schedule of a lot of teams that, and I'm not promoting Andrean in any way, or nor am I talking bad about them, but that's just another example of how Andrean is a good measuring stick of how people are performing during the season. Some other ones, you saw New Albany on like 3-team schedule. Lafayette Jeff is another one. These bigger schools that are a lot of people are scheduling them just for that reason, because they're historical powerhouses. Enough of me. Let's hear from Coach Bridges with Hanover Central.
Starting off with Crown Point, and it's a good game. It was a good game for us. Obviously, they're very talented team and well coached team. I coached Strayer, but we lost 2-0. The Bats. I think that's the only game we've been shut out of. The Bats were a little dead. We were missing our leader, Jared Comia. He was out, some COVID stuff, and he missed the first week of the season. Not having him, do we win that game? Probably not. But he gives us a shot in the arm, and we hit the ground running when he came back, and we kind of cruised for a little while there. Until we hit that McCutcheon game where we had the game. We were up 3-2 in the 7th, 2 outs, nobody on base, and they battled. They got a runner on and a big hit, 2 big hits, and tied the game up, and we went to 9 and ended up. Funny enough, Jared dropped the ball in center field, something I never thought I'd see. He lost it in the lights and hit his glove, fell out. Game over. We lose. Was it 4-3? In 9. So get back on the bus, come back, go to next morning. We had a kid take SATs. My starting second baseman was taking SATs that morning, and then we went to Hobart, and we were bad. There's no real way to put that. We were not very good. Walked everybody. I think we had 13 walks. Just was not. It was not pretty, but we did that. My kids asked me why I do that, or why we did that so early, and or why we put that game so early the next morning after coming from a night game at McCutcheon. It's a good way to get them to understand where they need to bring it every single day. Otherwise you can lose. You're there for a couple hours, and I try to tell my kids, find a way to compete for 2.5 hours. If you can do that, after a long night and, emotional game, that was a very emotional game with McCutcheon. You're going to set yourself up for a lot of success if we can find ways to do that. And since that game, my team brings a lot of energy. That wasn't who I was as a player, but I'm okay with it. As long as we don't cross any lines, and, it can be obnoxious at times, but the kids are engaged. I really have 10 guys who play. The rest they just got to find ways to provide for us. You're there for a reason. Now, whether it's to be a starter or whether it's come off the bench or whatever your role is, these kids understand their roles. And I'm really proud of that with these guys. we're just going to keep doing what we do. I mean, it's a routine based, and we've been doing the same thing all year. Why change it now? We are where we are because of the way we've prepared all year. And, you know, I almost gave the kids Monday off, but my kids they yelled at me. I was like, guys, we have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to play. And, you know, what else do we have to do? Quick review on some stuff. And they're like, oh, Coach, we just want to hit. We want to hit. I was like, that's fine. We can hit. I have no problem coming in. I was going to give them a day. And, you know, it was a long Saturday. We had, you know, some of my guys went to prom on Friday. We played 2 Saturday, and, you know, I was going to give them a couple, you know, Sunday, Monday off. And, you know, they wanted to get in there and start swinging it, which is I'm all on board for. But, you know, other than that, we're not going to change what we do. You know, these kids, they're ready. And I know it's only Tuesday. It's going to be a long week. It'll get here quick, though, if that makes any sense. You know, they're going to be they're Norwell program. You know, I was aware of the program, and I know they've always been, you know, that area's been a hotbed, like you said, and there's some talented kids out that way. And, you know, I don't expect this team to be any different. You know, we're going to prepare like we normally do, but, you know, we're going to talk. I mean, they're not going to make mistakes. You don't get this far with making, you know, giving a lot of free bases, and I don't expect them to give us much. You know, but I don't think we're going to give much either. So, you know, it's going to be a very sound game, tight game, like I expect and like my kids expect. I told them to expect a tight game. You're in the semi state. You're not going to blow anybody out anymore. So just being able to kind of just play the game. I mean, just play baseball is what I continue to tell my kids. And, you know, I don't try to worry too much. And I think the scouting reports and trying to find things is more for us as coaches. And that's what I tell my kids. I tell my kids not to worry about it. They you know, they're always freaking out about who we're playing or what they got or what arms. I was like, guys, I'll give you a scouting report when we get there. You know, as far as what you're going to see from the arm and what arm we'll see. I just want you guys to prepare the way we've been preparing all year. And I think that for a high school kid, I think that's huge. You know, these kids will let these outside things bother them and, you know, worry too much about what they have to do against a certain opponent, but it's still the game of baseball.
If you caught that at the end, that's the third coach now that said it's still just the game of baseball. Don't overthink it. Fundamentals, you know, it's a pattern. And, you know, I got a chance to see our next coach that we're going to hear from, Coach Goodmiller of Norwell, at a clinic up in Fort Wayne this past, I guess it would be spring. And I even told him afterwards, I've never seen someone make a concept look so simple. And hearing all the coaches talking about just you got to simplify things and then perfect them. And Coach Goodmiller, you know, people in the Fort Wayne area and around know him, and they know the Norwell program, and he's continuing just a stellar program up there. And this is another one of those teams where Coach Estep, for example, was talking about how Providence was just under the radar. Norwell's another one of those teams that, you know, they may not have the high ranking, but they take down the rankings. You know, they don't look at the ranking, they don't look at the score, and you'll see that when you see their schedule. I could talk about these guys all day. I'll shut up. Let's hear from Coach Goodmiller on the Norwell Knights season and the challenge of facing the number 1 3A team in the state in Hanover Central.
I think there were some growing pains. We started 4 sophomores all season, and here recently we've inserted a freshman into our lineup, and he's been doing some pitching for us as well, the freshman. So I think there were some growing pains. We have several kids who have pitched for us this year, but I don't know that we really have a true number 1. So I think early in the season we were kind of putting some games together with 2 and 3 pitchers we about had to count on. We did have a stretch in our season. I think we had 14 games scheduled in about a 3-week period. So we played about half of our season in a 3-week period. And having the nice weather we had this spring, we didn't have many cancellations at all. So I think part of it was just kind of the learning curve of figuring out who we were, some of the younger kids getting experience at the varsity level, me learning about some of the sophomores, because with last year's season being canceled, I didn't know much about some of these kids as sophomores. I was kind of learning with them as far as what's their best position and where to hit them in the order and things like that. I think probably the biggest improvement for us is just the way the team has kind of grown together and pulled together. The seniors have given us good leadership. The freshmen and sophomores on the team, they have jumped on and they've been good followers. And I think now they're starting to feel a little more confidence in their play. Early in this season, I would say that we were inconsistent. We were kind of up and down from game to game. There were some times we'd get down in games and couldn't come back, or we might have some errors that would kind of put us behind the 8 ball, and then it was tough to recover from that. But I really thought last weekend in the regional, we played 2 really good teams. We got down 2 runs to both of them, but we were able to come back and win both of those. And that's where I kind of started to see the kids, I think, believing a little bit more in themselves. We do have a lot of kids that play 2 and 3 sports. I think they're just competitive kids that I think that's kind of taken over on the team a little bit more, that, hey, we're still in this and we can make something happen. I just think that we talk about this a lot, and I don't know if it's really a specific player, but we try to really focus on putting the ball in play. I know early in the year when we had some of those losing streaks, it seemed like we popped up or flew out too much. Maybe didn't have good quality at bats at the time. I know we had a stretch where there was one week, I think we struck out 10 times against 3 different pitchers in that week. Now, we were playing some good teams like Hamilton Heights and Carroll, some schools that are a little bit bigger than us, but we just need to put the ball in play more. And I really think for us to be successful, we need to grind out at bats, put the ball in play, hit line drives, just not a lot of easy outs, and have a consistent 1 through 9 approach. I think that's something Hanover Central excels at. I think they flip their lineup over. I think they have kids that know the strike zone and will square up balls. And that's kind of where I'm hoping we can get to. But I think we've improved in that area. I think we've improved as far as not giving good teams extra outs with either errors or misplays, because against good teams like a Hanover Central, they're going to make you pay. I mean, if you walk many people or if you have errors, they're going to eventually score those. And I think for us to be in there on Saturday, we really need to play a clean game defensively, and our pitchers need to limit the walks or hit batters or whatever it might be. I'm just a firm believer in the fundamentals, and I really don't feel like you can change a whole lot at this point. You just need to go with what you've done so far, and hopefully the kids, respond and they're ready to go. And they seem like they are. I mean, we'll just go and do the best we can and enjoy the experience. Anytime you play the number 1 team, I mean, that should get people excited. I mean, the boys, and I guess me as a coach, I want the boys to see a successful team. This is where we want to strive to be. Obviously they've worked very hard to get where they're at. They have boys that are going to play college ball. That's what I want our kids to see. I'd like to play the best teams we possibly can and compete with them. And going to LaPorte, I think that's a great experience for the boys with the history and tradition up there at Schreiber Field and so on. So I think it's neat just to be able to get away and go play someplace different and play somebody we haven't ever played before. I mean, to me, I see it as a learning experience, but doggone it, I want them to have fun, and I hope the fans can enjoy a great game.
Well, that's an easy sell for me, Coach. You're looking at Hanover Central versus Norwell in that 3A game at LaPorte. That's going to be a good one. It's kind of Hanover Central's back door, but Norwell travels, and they travel well. Let's take a look at that other 3A matchup. Here is another one of those matchups. We'll call it a mega matchup that is getting talked about all over the state. Happening down in Jasper. What can you say about this matchup? Brebeuf versus Southridge. Earlier I talked about how Shakamak played probably the toughest 1A schedule in the state. Southridge is a 2A school playing up because of the competitive factor. Brebeuf will probably be there soon, playing up higher even than where they are. Because when you look at these guys' schedules, and you'll see familiar names like the ones I mentioned on these two schedules. That's what I was talking about earlier again as far as that measuring stick. And watch how these two did against them. Yes, they're high school teams. They'll have up and down, and the coaches are going to talk about that. But where these two teams are right now, I don't know if they're hitting on every cylinder or not. But if they're not, boy, when they do, it's going to get scary. Let's start with Brebeuf. I got a chance to talk to Coach Scott today. There's their lineup. Let's hear from Coach Scott about that brutal schedule that Brebeuf has, how they handled it, and what they're facing with Southridge in front of them.
And noticing our schedule, and that was done on purpose. We have a very talented group right now. We have an extremely talented pitching staff, and I felt we could really go outside of our conference and schedule some games that would put us in a position if we made a run in the tournament. I wanted to play some big games on Friday nights. I really enjoy playing on Friday nights anyway, and get some big crowds in there. So, when we are in front of that crowd, we won't be shell shocked. We've been there and done that. You can go all the way back to our spring trip in Louisville. We opened up with St. X out of Louisville, who was a top 10 ranked team out of Kentucky at that time. Then you look at our schedule on Friday nights that we played, and even throughout the rest of the season. I was looking at that South 4A regional. We played 6 of those 8 teams in that South 4A regional. All of them but one were a one-run game. We brought a team down out of Michigan who had an arm going to Tennessee, shortstop going to LSU, center fielder going to Miami, Ohio. That was probably the best team we saw all year. So we have played the competition. We've had humongous crowds in on Friday nights at Brebeuf. The Cathedral game was standing room only, 4 deep. So we've been in front of crowds. When we go to Jasper this weekend and that crazy crowd we're going to see, we've been there and done that. So everything's working out for us in terms of how we drew this thing up to be prepared for a big game like we're going to be in on Saturday. I do think it was a progression of us getting better, being able to handle that. Not only did our players try to figure out how to play in them, Ducanich had to figure out how to pitch in them, and he's gotten better because of it. Myself and my coaching staff had to figure out how do we coach in these big games with him on the mound and figuring out how to manufacture runs. So all of that's been a big progression and a learning curve for us that I feel like's prepared us for what we're going to be in on Saturday. The turning point, I do believe, was the Marion County tournament. The 3 games you got to win in 2 days there were huge. We were down 7-2 to Franklin Central in the bottom the bottom of the 6. We started the bottom of the 6 down 7-2 to Franklin Central in the Marion County tournament, scored 5 runs, went 9 innings and hit a walk-off home run. That was the turning point for me where I finally saw our guys never pushed the panic button the entire time. We were down that whole game, and our guys didn't panic. They just kept playing baseball. No nerves, no, just nothing. They just kept playing ball. And then we turned around, went down to Victory Field, beat Lawrence North to win the Marion County Championship. And to me, that was that was the turning point for us. That I don't know so much for our players, but it was for me and our staff to go, all right, these guys just play. They don't let anything bother them, and up or down doesn't matter. They're going to go out and do what they do. To me, our preparation this week looks identical to what it was last week, to be quite honest with you. You can spend a lot of time doing prep work, scouting reports, all this stuff. I asked a question to my staff yesterday. If you had all this information laying in front of you, would it change the way we play the game? And everybody's answer was no. It's kind of like Vince Lombardi used to say, right? If we can run these 3 plays very well, we have a chance to win a lot of ball games. And I feel that way about our team. We just got to go be who we are, play our game. Of course, there's a few things I'd like to know heading into the game about Southridge, just to prepare myself more than anything in terms of how we call the game and what we want to do. We're a pretty aggressive ball club, and I think as you get deeper in the tournament, you got to do some homework on, can we continue to be as aggressive as we have been? And we're never going to let off the gas pedal, because that's what we do. And I like to put pressure on the defense. We have a lot of athletic kids and some speed in our team that we can do that. So there's not a whole lot different that we're doing. I'm doing a little bit of homework on our end. Dukanich, he does what he does, and I called him yesterday, and he already had his homework done. And that's kind of the beauty of these kids today. They play with each other. They know everybody in the state because of social media and travel baseball. And he's already been able to do his homework because of who he knows and who he's played with and who he's seen. The big games that we've been in, you look at the offensive power of a lot of those teams and what we've seen. I look at that as an opportunity to be prepared for a team like Southridge. Obviously, I know about 1 through 4 for them, and I know a little bit about their arm. But I don't think anything's different for us in terms of how we went about our business this year when we played in those types of games. And you look at Cathedral and that matchup and the bats they have in their lineup, and that's a 2-1 game. You look at the team I talked about from Michigan, who's got 3 Division I players in that lineup. We lose 3-2. We went down to Jasper 3 weeks ago, so we've already been on Ruxer Field this year. Didn't play very well. We played like we were on got off of a 2.5-hour bus ride and lost that game 8-3. But the experience of being there at Ruxer and playing a talented team like Jasper, all those things to me just prepare you for anything that's going to be thrown at you when you're in a semi-state game and against a talented team like Southridge. I know Gene Mattingly. Gene Mattingly and I go back many years ago. We both have older sons that were the same age, so we crossed paths in the travel circuit when we were both coaching there with our oldest boys years ago. So I know Gene a lot, know a lot about Gene's style. He's a tremendous coach and an even better person and a good friend of mine. Yeah, I mean, I think if you're at Ruxer Field, whether you're a fan, a player, coach, umpire, or working the concession stand, I think it's going to be a great atmosphere for high school baseball. And, if you can't get excited to be around that, I don't know what will. And, our guys get very excited to play in front of that, especially number 24 on the mound. And this is his kind of game, and he lives for these types of moments. And our teammates rally around a guy like him. And, we got a few seniors in this lineup that have been carrying us here of late. So I'm excited about it, and I can't wait for Saturday to get here. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It most certainly is, Coach. And I'll tell you what, confidence, humility, respect, it just exudes from both of these skippers. As we just talked to Coach Scott, I'm going to hold off and let's go right into Coach Mattingly with Southridge, talking about their season, expectations, and facing Brebeuf.
Coming in, our goal was to get better each week, and try and put together our best effort when we played. And I think we knew that it would be a process of getting our legs back under us, getting us get baseball, mindset as we go through the season. And we play a really tough schedule. Of those losses, I think all but one of those are to 4A schools. One was in Central, North, Jasper. We're all by one run. And I think two of them were walk-off fashions at their place. So we play a tough schedule. But we're going to keep doing Southridge baseball. We don't, we have the mindset that if we take care of what we do, it doesn't matter who we play. Right or wrong, arrogant, not arrogant. That's just who we are. We concentrate on ourselves because we can't control what the other team does. So we don't change anything. Maybe that's because I'm a poor coach or what, but we think we think we have good athletes. We think we have good baseball players, and we think we have a good process. And so we attack every day the same, with the same mindset. And we just happen to be playing the team on the other side of the ledger is Jesuit Brebeuf. I've known Jeff for I think probably 15 years. His son Jake and my oldest were the same age, and they played against each other, pretty much every summer from probably 10 years old on. So I've known Jeff for a while. He's a great coach. I know they'll be prepared. They'll have us scouted well. He'll have a game plan. But again, I think he's not going to change anything. They are who they are, and they're a talented team. They got what we would call dudes up and down the lineup at every position. We'll likely face probably the best arm we've seen all year into Connacht, and they'll play sound, they'll play fundamental, and they'll get after us and they'll compete. So that's what we expect, and I think they can expect the same thing from us. We need to be fundamentally sound. We need to stay focused and in the moment, and not let the past, maybe a past at bat or a mistake that we may make hinder us from being in the moment and present for the job required with the next pitch. If we stay focused on winning every pitch and not let the future or the past affect us, we'll be fundamentally sound, and we'll give ourselves a chance to win. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I think I told somebody it's probably going to be the best $10 anybody could spend, as far as if they're looking for quality baseball and good entertainment, high energy. The place will be packed. It would be a situation where if I wasn't playing in this, wasn't part of this, we would probably be there just to witness it.
You heard it right there. The best $10 you can spend for entertainment. I'm an easy sell. You just got to tell me to be there, and I'm there. But I tell you what, even the casual fan needs to make it out to one of these locations this week. We're through the 3As. We're heading into the 4A. Before we do, just if you're keeping tally, as Coach Mattingly there made a reference just lightheartedly, about how maybe it's because he's a bad coach. That is the second coach in this set of interviews who both have been to the last two state finals each, who have called themselves a bad coach. I just find that entertaining. But it's going back to that confidence, humility, respect. You hear that between all the other coaches, because they know there are so many variables in baseball, and that is why it is the greatest game ever invented. 4A, here we go. First stop, Kokomo. I didn't mean for that rhyme. Munster versus Fishers, another good one. Oh my gosh. Fishers walked through. You may have seen my post on Twitter or Facebook, how that sectional that Fishers was in was just unreal. You had Carmel, who finished the season at number 1. You had Zionsville, who started the season at number 1. You had Westfield at number 5. You had Noblesville. You had Fishers. That's 4 teams who have been in the state finals the last 6 years, plus all those high-ranked teams. That was a sectional. That's that Hoosier Crossroads Conference. But Munster is up in that conference up north, the Northwest Crossroads Conference. And I'll tell you, that one, I just read the other day that Hanover Central, I think it's starting in 2022, 2023, I think it is. I could be off on that. Is joining that Northwest Crossroads Conference. Don't quote me on that. It was a highlight read on my behalf, but boy, that'll make that conference even tougher. Let's pause for a minute and look at that Munster hat. Of all the hats, I get more comments on that hat than any other hat in the over 1,500 in my hat closet. So you got to give them props for that. I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm Hardy the Hat Guy. What do you expect? Let's look at this matchup. I wasn't able to talk to Coach Schinken this week, but I'll tell you, as we look at Munster, first of all, it starts with the coach. Coach Schinken is a Indiana Baseball Hall of Famer. He has over 600 wins for his career because he continuously produces. Now, I mentioned earlier, you heard me say about how teams like Andrean or New Albany, Lafayette, Jeff, they're showing up on everybody's schedule that you're seeing here in the state finals. My math could be wrong, but I believe Munster has played the most teams that are in this semi-state. I don't know. I think it's because of the reputation of coach and the reputation of the Munster program just makes them one of those good measuring sticks for your program. There's so much talent up there in Northwest Indiana. Let's look at Munster's schedule. Crown Point, Lawrence North. So they're going all over the place too. They're playing Lawrence North. Hammond Clark, last year Hammond Clark, there's a Hammond Clark thing. I can't keep it straight. There's Andrean. You got an L. Look at that L right there, that next L with Andrean, 13-0. If you recall, you remember how Coach Estep was talking about how their 10-0 loss to Andrean turned their season around. Well, if you look at this, look at that L right there, then they started stringing some together. But like a lot of teams in the semi-state, they've had an up and down. They've hit some spurts. These are 15 to 18-year-old kids. So, they beat Crown Point the first time. They come back, they lose 5-0 the next time. But you look at this schedule. It is a tough schedule. And I'll throw one out here real quick, just a couple of them. If you look on that column all the way to the right, there's 2 games back to back there. Indiana Christian, remember that name. A lot of people, if you're in the southern part of the state, you may not have even heard of Indiana Christian. That's a name you're going to want to remember. That team, if you look, 4-3 right there, same score that Munster lost to Hanover Central on. So, Indiana Christian, from what I know about them, they're a team that's going to be on my radar, as well as Hanover Central right there. So they played those 2 stellar teams, both extra innings, back to back. So their schedule's tough. They're going to be well coached with Coach Schinken. And their talent. I was talking to some people up north, some of the coaches that I know of, that I've friends with up north, and talking about Munster. And it's kind of the same thing that you hear from all the other coaches. Is they're not going to beat themselves. They're going to make you beat yourself, and they're going to force you into errors because they're going to push the issue. Very fundamentally sound. And when it comes to playoffs, just like every other coach is talking about, the fundamentals are going to make the difference. It's like what a couple of the coaches also have talked about, the role players, the guy that comes in and gets that pinch hit, the guy that comes in to steal the base that's needed. These games in the semi-state, if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong, but I don't see any 10-0 games or even 9-2 games. I mean, these games in a semi-state are closer matched than I've seen in a long time. So as we look at this matchup, the opponent is Fishers. That's what I just told you about that sectional they ran through. They've got a schedule in the Hoosier Crossroads Conference. This is just my fan opinion, and I'm a fan of every team in the state. So, but from my fan opinion, they're in the toughest conference in the state of Indiana. You know, some of those teams I mentioned earlier: Fishers, Noblesville, Westville, Zionsville, Brownsburg, Avon. It just goes on and on and on. And you know, they're getting that way in other sports as well. I mean, I don't follow the other sports, but baseball, you know, they're there for a reason. So when you look at their schedules, you know, you look at Fishers, they're 22-12, unranked, and 3 of the teams in their own conference were ranked, but here they sit in the semi-state. So strength of schedule is going to matter here, but Munster matches their strength of schedule by playing people all over. So let's hear from Coach Cherry from Fishers.
You know, it's just kind of accumulation of the entire season altogether, really. You know, getting the win, which would come from behind win. I think we're down 4-1 at home against Homestead, and the guys fought back and rallied. You know, I think it was the 5th or 6th inning. We finally took the lead, and that kind of just, you know, right there proved to the guys that they can compete with anybody. Homestead, you know, a really, really great ball club. And so that taught them right there that we were never out of a game. We could compete with anybody. And so that kind of started it right away with our guys believing that they, you know, had a chance to win and to beat teams that maybe others thought that they couldn't. And then we hit the skid where we lost 4 in a row, and one was on a walk-off to Franklin with Max Clark. And so that was kind of emotional because we had that game, you know, kind of won, and then they came back and beat us late, and turned around and followed that with a couple other losses, another walk-off loss. And so our guys knew that, you know, it wasn't like we were getting beat or dominated, not taking anything away from the other teams that did win those games, but we were losing late. And so our guys just kind of kept having that feeling that they could beat anybody and that they were in every game. And then the win against Zionsville, we were 1-4, and we beat Zionsville at Zionsville. In some crucial situations in that game, late in the game, they had bases loaded, and we got out of a jam and worked out of a jam in the 7th. And, you know, just kind of constantly proving to our guys that they could compete with anybody, they could win. They were never out of a game. Didn't matter what the score was at any point. And that's kind of just continued throughout the entire season over and over again. We hit another streak in May where we lost 4-5. Again, on another one on a walk-off. And it just, those kind of facing adversity and just working through overcoming those adversities has just put us where we're at today. And it's something the guys already had, that it's already in them. They're super competitive. But I think just seeing those results and seeing, you know, the performance that they were proving to themselves that they could beat anybody. You know, just listening to other coaches speak at state clinics and picking brains of coaches that I trust and that, you know, I look up to. I've learned a lot about the tournament runs and handle the teams, and don't know that we do it right, but we try to model ourselves after some championship programs that have done things for a long time. And so we typically give them the early part of the week off. This week on Monday, we came into lift to get a recovery lift in, but didn't do anything baseball wise. We gave them off. The regional is really tough, man. You go from playing an emotional game and take a break and turn around and play another emotional game, and you're just wiped out. And so they need a couple of days to recharge. So we try to give them the early part of the week off. We'll get back after it today with a little light practice, get our arms going a little bit, take some ground balls. Honestly, our guys are so loose and they just believe, and they know that they can beat, you know, anybody that they play against. Last week they went to the regional wearing just random basketball and baseball jerseys is what they got on the bus in. And it's just how they are. They're just nice and loose and relaxed. I'm sure that one day at practice they'll do something silly and come out to practice wearing something goofy. And just kind of who they are, and it keeps them loose. And, you know, obviously it's a big game, but they're mentally checked in. It's just the next game, and they know that they can play with and beat anybody. So our fans have been incredible. we have a student section that is really close with some of our players, and they were out at the sectional games, they were out at the regional games. I think it's huge for us that we're playing in Kokomo, where it's not that far from Fishers. A lot of fans can get up there. I know we've heard from some of our youth players that they're excited to go up, and so I'm expecting, the Fishers Tigers Sea of Red to be a huge sea of red there behind the first base dugout, and they'll bring the energy and the excitement like they have, all year, but especially during this tournament run. And it's going to be a great ball game. The team that can take care of the baseball, throw strikes, take care of the baseball, get the timely hit, is the team that's going to win. But it's going to be great baseball. Obviously, all the teams are playing really well right now, and the best teams in the state at the moment. They've made it this far. So I know when we were in 18, the game before us went down to the wire, and that brought a lot of energy to the field and to the stands, and kind of helped trigger into our game that excitement of playing in the moment and playing for the chance to go to Victory Field. And so the fans, I think, will be in for a real treat watching the game before us, and then also for our game. And again, our fans have been amazing. They travel really well, and I expect there to be a lot more out there than even we've seen over the past few weeks with the excitement that's coming around the community.
I'll tell you what, I could talk about that matchup or that Kokomo location. I'll tell you, and I'm a big fan of how Coach Cherry runs his program. I watch him from the outside looking in, just how he runs his operations there, and just a good man, and X's and O's, just as smart as they come. And you go up, and Coach Schinken is the same way. And these are just two good men running good programs. They're good leaders of men. I just can't talk and say enough good words about them. And, it wouldn't surprise me at all if either one of those teams ends up at that field that you're looking at on my screen right here in about a week and a half. So what a great matchup. What a great location there in Kokomo, with you have this game that we just talked about, as well as the 2A game between Eastside and Delphi. Those communities are going to pack the house, and there is not a bad seat at Kokomo Municipal Stadium. Fill that place up, folks. You will not regret it. We got one more to go. We're in 4A, and we are heading back to Jasper. Like I said earlier, this location is getting a lot of buzz around the state, and whether it's that the Brebeuf versus Southridge, or this game right here, I'll tell you, if there were bad pitchers on either team, these games would just blow up the scoreboard. But the thing is, all four teams have good pitching and good hitting. It's such a dynamic environment. And if you're a baseball fan, that means you're listening to me. The casual fan's probably not listening to this anyway. So I'm telling you stuff you already know. This Jasper location is just going to be nuts. So Mount Vernon of Fortville versus Jasper. Let's pause for a second. I like both these hats. I remember I picked up this Jasper hat from Coach Gobert. It's been, back in 2019 season. I think it was after that season was over. I was just passing through, and he just happened to be at the field. So I've got so many stories like that. Another great guy. And the Mount Vernon hat, I picked it up from, I was the same scenario, both hats. I was passing through the area, and I met Coach King at, I think it was a Lowe's or a Menards parking lot to get those two awesome hats. I'll tell you what, I'm not cool, I'm not funny, but my hobby's funner than yours. So let's get back to the matchup here. Mount Vernon versus Jasper. What can you say? Where do you start? Jasper, here's their lineup, and let's go to their schedule, because I tell you, wow, this schedule is brutal. And man, they owned it at 29-2. It says their ranking is number 12, but rankings to me mean nothing, and every coach I've talked to here says the same thing. The rankings don't mean anything to them either when it comes down to playoff time. So looking at this schedule right here, top to bottom, Shakamak. Remember I said Shakamak had the toughest 1A schedule in the state? Look right there, game number 2, Shakamak. Bloomington South, Northeast Du Bois, it doesn't quit. It's got all the Evansville teams. There's the New Albany, like I said, that shows up on everybody's schedule. The Columbus, Columbus East and Columbus North. Those are 2 other teams that are good measuring stick teams because they play so many people, a wide geography. They're not just playing local people. It's kind of like how Notre Dame plays people from all the other conferences in football, so they use them as a measuring stick for rankings. Well, it's kind of the same way with some of these schools I'm mentioning here. All the all the Evansville schools, of course, there is Edgewood and Castle. These are schools, I didn't do a count, but in the last 10 years, I'd hate to say how many semi-states and even state representatives, state finals showings you have in this list right here. There's Evansville North, there's Southridge, Bloomfield. You heard Coach Yeryar talking about him from Shakamak the other day. They got a really good pitcher. There's Brebeuf, there's Castle again, Evansville North. All of that schedule, and 2 red L's on there. That is consistency. And that is, obviously they've got the tools, they've got the people that can rake. They got the people that can, add up the K's on the fence. But it's consistency. And that's why this matchup is just so amazing to me. Let's move over because I got a chance to talk to Coach King at Mount Vernon. And, Mount Vernon hadn't been there a lot, but their team is stacked and they've got some players. This game could get out of hand. I just labeled some of the records like I did previously. Look at these: 24-7, 20-11, 18-9, 24-6. These are some of the records of these people. But the one thing before we go into Mount Vernon that stands out for Jasper, if you haven't seen it, you need to go online and find last week's regionals with Jasper and Center Grove. Just you talk about a game with 2 different stories. Center Grove has a perfect game going into the 5th, and then Jasper simply woke up and following, capped off with a grand slam. I think I can't remember the final score of that game, but it was just talk about 2. That's why they play 7 innings. And I could tell you stories about that all day long. And any high school players that are listening to this, and if you're playing this weekend, don't forget it's 7 innings. 7 innings. Play all 7. And that's the only coaching you'll ever get from Hardy the Hat Guy right there. You want a lesson from me? Listen to your coach and not hat collectors. Here we go, Mount Vernon. Let's hear Coach King talk about the great season they've had and the challenge with facing a historical juggernaut in Jasper.
There really hasn't been a defining moment. When we came in, we wanted to make sure our schedule was very strong. And when the Noblesville Invitational opened up, I contacted our athletic director, Brandon Ecker, and said, I want to be involved in this. It had 8 outstanding teams, and we'd have a good gauge of where we stood right off the bat. And playing Noblesville at Noblesville is always a good game to start with. And we played them, and then we played Franklin Community, which is a very solid club, and we also played Columbus North, and we lost that game 12-10, but we had a lead, and we kind of lost it down the stretch. But we knew after that series of 3 games that we were going to be able to compete with a lot of teams. Mount Matter of fact, a couple of the kids came together and they're like, "Well, if we can win 2 out of every 3 games that we play, we're gonna have a good season." And so we kind of built on that, and we broke the schedule down into 3-game series. And every 3-game series that we played this year, we were either 3-0 or 2-1. We haven't had a 2-game losing streak all year. We just kind of jumped on that. And I told him, if we go 2-1 in every series, we have a chance to set the school record for wins. So we obviously have a goal of winning a conference. We did win the HHC this year. It's the first time we had won a conference championship since 2009, and it's only the second one in the school's history, and it's the first outright. So we're pretty proud of that. We went on and we won sectional for the first time since 2011, and obviously proud of something like that as well. Then last weekend winning regional, that's the first time we've won a regional in 50 years. So 1971 was the last time that Mount Vernon has won a regional championship. I was kidding around with our guys, and basically I was 8 months old when that happened. And then we have a coach on our coaching staff, Wayne Graham, who's just a little bit older than that. So there's only two people in our whole program that was even around the last time Mount Vernon won a regional championship. So, there really hasn't been a defining moment. We've played a really good schedule, and we've had success, and we've just built on that. Well, anytime you play a program like Jasper, you've got to bring your A game. We're not going to be able to boot the ball around. We're not going to be able to give up and leave a lot of guys on base because they will take advantage of that. I mean, it's one of the best programs in the history of our state in terms of baseball. So it's just an incredible program. Going down there and playing is going to be tremendous. It's going to be electric. We're looking forward to it. Some people have said, "Oh, you're going to go down. You've got to go down to Jasper." I said, "We don't have to. We get to. We've earned this right." And I think what helps too is we won regional against another traditionally strong baseball program. So we're going to go into games and we're going to play and be who we are. And if we get beat, then hats off to our opponent. If we win, then hats off to our opponent. I mean, we've just got that attitude that we're just going to come out and we're going to play baseball. We're not going to have any quit in us. We've got several players who are really good, and I could name individually. But this entire season, kids have taken their roles. They've jumped on it. Going back to the regional championship game, we moved guys around the last 2 innings. We made 5 changes from our starting lineup. And so, our catcher was different, our third baseman, our shortstop were different, our pitcher and our left fielder. We moved guys around to different areas. And I had a reporter ask me, were you nervous? Did you second guess yourself? And I said, no, because we're very versatile and we can play multiple positions. And we've probably had that lineup on the field 10 times this year. So, kids understand when they're called on, they've got to step up and play their best. So they need to stay in the game throughout. And, we do have a lot of talented players, but we also have guys who know their roles. And I think anytime you have a successful team, that's the best part of it. Guys do embrace their roles, and they, if they're called on, they go out and compete. Every team that's playing right now, they are who they are. We've kind of found a formula that works for us. We come in, we get done what we need to get done. We don't dwell on things if things aren't going right. We're not going to harp on it. We're deep in the season, so we're doing what we've been doing the last few weeks. It seems to be a good formula. It's working. The guys seem to like it, and we're just going to keep going with it, and we'll play as long as we're blessed to play. Well, one, it is an incredible venue. The place is immaculate. It's a beautiful place to watch a game. I've never coached a game there. I can't wait to do that. I'm looking forward to it. But I think we've got the best matchups, in the state, in this semi-state. The 2 teams before us it's going to be electric. The crowd's going to be there. All 4 teams have really good good players, or obviously we wouldn't be there. Great pitching. We played Brebeuf, and they put it to us. But their pitchers, he's next level. He's a very talented young man. So I'm looking forward to seeing a little bit of that game, and just seeing, like I said, it's going to be electric. It's a great venue. It's like, back in the day when Hinkle Fieldhouse would host a semi-state. That's what I'm envisioning when we go down there to play. Something similar to that. There's going to be tons of fans in the stands, and it's just going to be a good day of baseball. I think the weather's supposed to be really good, so we're looking forward to it. Obviously, anybody who's playing at this time of year has got to be extremely happy that they're here, and what happens, and we'll be proud regardless of what happens.
Wow. Are you with me still? Are you with me? Seriously? This is why this is my holiday. This stuff is amazing. Seriously, though, are you not entertained? Looking at that Jasper, let's talk about Jasper here for just a second. Then we're going to have a little fun as we wrap things up. We've been all around the board. I could talk about this all night because I'm the Uber fan. Jasper, if you're going down to Jasper, I just got a hold of, just to confirm, I got a hold of Ray Howard, the guy that runs the Indiana Baseball Hall of Fame. Look it up on your maps. Check out the Indiana Baseball Hall of Fame. It's down there, not too far from Jasper. Give them a stop in, and I tell you what, it's just a diamond down there, and you got to check it out. Plus, if you look up when you get in there, you'll see all the college baseball hats from every college in the state of Indiana, and I got those for them, and had a lot of fun with that. I'll tell you what, speaking of hats, as we wrap things up, I could keep you going for another 4 hours, but I told you I was going to have this in the morning. I need to quit doing that. You guys remember this? A lot of you seen this on Twitter. The Sweet 16 hat bracket. This was your regional pairings with hats from each team that I've collected over the year, about the last 2.5 years since I finished the Indiana High School baseball hat collection, which, by the way, if you're going to be at the state finals, so am I, with every high school baseball hat in the state of Indiana. Boy, I had a lot of fun with it. But let's have a little fun with this. Let's say in this regional, if you made it to regional, who's the state champion based on the hat? Here's your 1A regional. How did it shake out? Take a look at it for a second before I show you where I went with it. I'll tell you what, this could have went so many different ways. You know, I love the baby blue. I love the bold red. I love the bold blue. Oh my gosh, an Old English font. Are you kidding me? Just take my wallet. 1A, who is our hat champion for 1A? South Central, look at that, up in Union Mills. That logo is just sick. And I'll tell you what, I talked to some of my hat collectors across the country on this, so this isn't all just me. But that logo, that South Central logo, Union Mills, you are the 1A hat champion by me. And I am the authority. 2A, let's take a look. Oh, man, look at this. You got, look at that bottom left Delphi versus Rochester. Just give me a quarter and flip. Or Madison Grant Wapahani. These are awesome. And green, take my wallet. You'll see. So look at these for a second. Who you got? Who is your 2A champion? Well, I'll tell you who it is. Rochester. I told you. If it's Old English, just take my wallet. Look at the other side. Look who they played. Knightstown. Look at that Old English. Isn't that sweet? Yes. Rochester, 2A hat champion. 3A, are you having fun yet? Oh, man. Where do we go with this? I'll tell you, that 2A bracket was my favorite bracket. Here, it's a different story. You've got the bold blues. Look at that matchup right there with Silver Creek and Southridge in the bottom right bracket right there. Look at those two hats. How are you supposed to pick one of those? You flip a quarter. People ask me all the time, what's your favorite hat guy? Well, it's easy. The next one. Who's our 3A champ? Northwestern. Is that an upset? Where are they coming from? Look at that logo. It's unique. It's unique. And maybe it's an upset. Knocking off Silver Creek there. They got a slick logo of their own. A little controversy with the first hat champion. 4A. Who you got? The big schools. Remember I told you, little hints. I like green. I like Old English. This one's going to surprise some people. I told you some other hats that I liked in here already. Who is your 4A hat champion? Floyd Central. Little side note, Floyd Central was my dark horse to actually win the 4A a few weeks ago. But that didn't happen. They got beat by a good team. Look at that Harrison hat right there. This was a lot of fun. Folks, thanks if you stuck with me this long. I am nothing but a fan, but I'm a fan of Indiana high school baseball. And the one thing I took out of interviewing these people today, as well as the great opportunity I had, and I overemphasize this to everybody, that I am just a fan. I'm not selling anything other than just cheesy lines. But the one thing I took from interviewing these coaches with this and meeting the coaches all over the state is that they're good men. They're good leaders of young men. And I'll tell you what, I got to tip my hat to the athletic directors and the coaches for bringing these good men in. Even the coaches that I talk to that are the perennial powerhouse programs, their priority is bringing up good young men. And that is reassuring that they're in good hands with these people with the baseball programs across Indiana. Because you know what? Yes, Indiana, we are a basketball state. Yeah, we're getting a pretty good reputation in football. We got reputations in all kinds of things. But make no mistake about it, we are a baseball state too. I'm Hardy the Hat Guy. Thank you. Let's have fun Saturday. I'll see you somewhere. I haven't even made up my mind yet.